Welcome to Dodgers Dogs. As part of the Dodgers Daily Network, Casey Porter here, joined by Austin Brubaker. Austin, very kind of frustrating, disappointing, perplexing. Spring breakout game was canceled due to weather, which that's not perplexing. That's age old in baseball, but it was interesting to me they didn't put a reschedule to it, so that was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it is disappointing not being able to see the spring breakout game this year. Remember last year in 2024, we got to see a lot of exciting action during the spring breakout game. We got to see some good performances on the hitting side. We got to see the breakout of an Edgardo Henriquez, who was able to make it to the major leagues last year, and a whole lot of other really cool performances from guys down at the farm that you might not get an opportunity to see as much. This year, the game was canceled. It is disappointing for us because we like to watch these guys go out there and perform and be able to showcase just how talented this farm system is. We aren't going to get an opportunity to do that, but these guys, I think, still deserve the opportunity to be highlighted for just how good they actually are and to make sure that they get recognized for the talents that they have. And that is something that, man, I wish they had the opportunity to do it on the field this year, but we're going to try to provide at least a little bit of insight of how good these guys are.
So here you see the pitchers here: Jackson Ferris, Hyun-Seok Jang, Jose Rodriguez. We've covered him quite a bit. Chris Campos, Carson Hobbs. He got, I believe, one outing. It went sideways on him. I've actually talked to him since then. He is a very, very, very talented young man. Ronan Kopp, Kelvin Ramirez, Lucas Wepf, young man who set the world on fire for about the first half of last season. Ronaldo Yean, the first Dodger in the system to hit 104 last year. Carlos Rojas, a young talented catcher out of Mexico. Janer Fernandez, a young man you got to see quite a bit. Nelson Quiroz is another guy you got to see a lot in Great Lakes last year. And then we're going to get into the Emil Morales, who is what was a 2024, 2023 or 2024. Not this last international class that the Dodgers didn't sign, the one before that. He was the big shortstop out of the DR. Kellen Lindsey was the shortstop this year, has 80 grade speed. Joendry Vargas, another big shortstop type prospect. Chase Harlan, the third baseman who committed to Florida, decided to go pro anyways. Big strapping third baseman type. Logan Wagner, a young man that just simply has not been able to stay healthy. I've reached out to him in terms of wanting to talk to him and that kind of thing. I have not gotten a response for him. I'm assuming he's really kind of wanting to get his career started and healthy before he goes on record or talks or anything like that. Kyle Nevin, a young man that, if you listen to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, I think he is the most underrated offensive player in the system. Nico Perez, not going to lie, I don't have a whole lot of information on him. And then Joe Vetrano, young man with massive exit velos. Josue de Paula, Zaire Hope speak for themselves. Edgardo Quintero, one of the fastest young men in the system. Kendall George, right next to him, probably is the fastest. And then Ching Hang Ko, and then Mike Sirota, who the Dodgers just got this offseason, and Jaron Elkins, who the Dodgers drafted out of high school in a couple years ago. And he has just not been able to stay healthy. So, hey, let's dive into this. And we have talked a lot of Jackson Ferris. What I wanted to do first, Austin, is I wanted to get Hyun-Seok Jang on the board and talk about him first. So here he is right here. This is Hyun-Seok Jang. So dive in, Austin.
Yeah, so I have not had the opportunity to see a whole lot of Hyun-Seok Jang quite a bit yet. Spent a lot of time, really his first professional season last year, spent a lot of time at the complex level where you just saw a lot of his swing and miss stuff really starts to evolve at the complex level with a 41.5% strikeout percentage. Dealt with a lot of control issues as far as still trying to hone in on a lot of his stuff. So you got to see the walk percentage elevate a little bit, but got to spend a lot of time at the complex level. Then got to make his professional debut in affiliated ball with the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes last year. Really just 5 starts, only about 2 innings or so apiece during a lot of those different outings, but he had a lot of success, and you got to see that swing and miss stuff continue for him. A 2.19 ERA during his 5 starts in Rancho, 2.93 FIP, .379 expected FIP, and that's almost with a almost 40% strikeout percentage for him. He's really exciting as a prospect. Disappointed that he didn't get a chance to see him.
The top Yancel Luis is in the batter's box, ready to go.
A lot of him coming up during this 2024 season, and he's one of these guys that could really make a name for himself with the swing and miss stuff that he has.
Yeah. So 6'4", that's a big old frame right there for Hyun-Seok Yang. Good job locating his fastball. You see it to the outside corner, but what you'll also see that he does quite a bit if you watch him, he really likes to run that fastball inside on lefties, and it has pretty good hop to it, and because of that, he's able to get away with it pretty good. We'll get into his pitch mix here in a bit, but big old long dude, see there's that cutter inside. He likes to command the inside part of the plate to lefties, both with the fastball, then he'll play that cutter. See how he's inside right there? Whenever you have a young pitcher, one of the things a lot of times they're scared of is coming inside, because like in high school and in amateurs, coaches won't call inside fastballs because they don't want their pitchers to hit guys. And then also that inside fastball is scary because if you make a mistake with it, that's the one that hitters make history with. Those are the ones that you hit the light. See that inside again. Those are the light tower type of home runs. So Hyun-Seok Yang, first of all, he likes to command the inside part of the plate. That four seam that you're seeing right there is about 96, okay? At 94, 95, 96, he could probably reach in the tank and grab a little bit more than that, but 96 pretty much is what you're seeing there. Curveball, big slider, then he has kind of the harder slider. So he has three different types of breaking balls. Curveball, he has the big slider, and then there's the tighter slider there that he steals for strikes, and then he has a changeup. So you're talking about three different types of breaking balls, a four seam, and a changeup with a 6'4" size, 5 pitch mix. He's got plenty of time to develop, long frame, wonderful young man. As a matter of fact, when I was talking to Hyun-Il Choi, he was actually working out with Hyun-Seok Yang, and they were talking to each other while I was talking to Choi in that interview. See that inside pitch right there? He loves doing that. So that's Hyun-Seok Yang, a very, very, very talented young prospect in the Dodgers system. Right-hander that we have not covered quite a bit or a whole lot. So any final thoughts on Hyun-Seok Yang, Austin?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how he's able to mix all of those different pitches together, and just another year of development within this Dodgers system that really takes pitchers that might not have the greatest command, greatest control, and be able to turn them into something special. I think he's one of these guys that you look at the stuff that he has and his fearlessness with going ahead and attacking the inside part of the plate. I think he's going to go out there, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do this season. Again, one of these guys that could really jump up.
Jackson Ferris, we've covered him quite a bit. Dodgers fans got to see him in spring training. He has just absolutely skyrocketed up the prospect charts. So Jackson Ferris, left-handed pitcher the Dodgers got in the Michael Busch trade.
Yeah, no, Jackson Ferris, he speaks for himself with just the way that he goes out there and is able to pitch. You saw the confidence grow tremendously throughout. This is already a confident guy who expected to go out there and win and get every single player out that he went up and competed against. But he just took that to another level as he went across the season and as he worked his way through the Midwest League last year, to the point where last year he ended his Loons career with 8 no-hit innings against the Cedar Rapids Colonels. Just absolutely impressive for him. Last season, during his entire tenure in the minor leagues, which included almost 100 innings in Great Lakes and about 28 innings in Tulsa, 3.20 ERA, 330 FIP, and 368 expected FIP. Total numbers throughout his career throughout his tenure during the 2024 season. Struck out a decent 27.5% of hitters. Just went out there and absolutely excelled and put his name as one of these guys that you could be seeing enter the conversation. If it wasn't for the depth of the Dodgers, he would be one of those guys where you could see entering the conversation of, okay, what if we need depth late in the 2025 season? Could Jackson Ferris be one of those guys that could take those steps? Still has some some more time to be able to develop at the upper levels of the minor league system, but he's well beyond his way. He's a bit polished as well, and his stuff is just absolutely it's dynamic what he's able to do.
Talk about his stuff. He can reach about the 96 range. Big sweeping slider. Finished last year, you said, with an ERA of 3.20. Whip of just 118. I like to see that whip under 120. So it's one thing to be explosive. It's another thing to be efficient. I like that walks and hits per inning for efficiency. 145 strikeouts, 126.2 innings. That goes to show you how explosive he is. So how explosiveness versus efficiency, if you can do both, that big sweeping slider to the back foot's amazing. Yeah. So how about the efficiency? He went at least 5 innings in 17 of his starts last year, and he went at least 6 innings 6 different times. So not only, hey, we know that he has the big stuff, the sweeping slider, the fastball at the top of the zone with good carry, that, and he has that slider right there that has more depth. We know he has all that. The question is, can he be efficient enough to create length? And I think he answered that question 100% in spades last year. So Jackson Ferris, we've talked quite a bit about him. Any final thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think that last point about him getting some length is a really crucial one. Jackson Ferris is still incredibly young. He's still, 21 years old now? He's entering his age 21 season. So last year was his age 20 season, which is really young for the Midwest League to be doing what he has been doing. And you look at this organization, look at some of the actions that speak for itself. They do not give a lot of their starters an incredible amount of length, but they trusted that with a guy like Jackson Ferris, who is incredibly young for his age, young for the level. I think that just shows you how much trust they are putting in Jackson Ferris's corner, and I think he's going out there and proving the Dodgers absolutely right. This is a steal that the Dodgers were able to get during the Michael Busch trade, and I'm so excited to see what he's going to be able to do during this season and the next steps he's going to be able to take, because this is a guy who I firmly believe is going to be a big league pitcher.
Okay, Jose Rodriguez, young man out of Oaxaca, Mexico, one of the most underrated pitchers in all of minor league baseball. 7 foot of extension. He has great movement on his pitches, good carry. This is a young man that knows how to get swing and miss. So we've covered Jose Rodriguez quite a bit. We're going to try to not cover the guys we've covered quite a bit as much, so we can get to the other guys like a Hyun-Seok Jang that we haven't covered as much. But Jose Rodriguez, super exciting.
Super exciting. I've talked about Jose Rodriguez a ton on this channel. It's the swing and miss. It is the swinging strike percentage being the best in the Dodgers organization and one of the best in all of minor league baseball, given the fact that he went out there and pitched 90-some innings. He is absolutely electric. He's incredible, and he's one of these guys who, similar to Jackson Ferris, if it wasn't for the depth that was part of this system, although could have a little bit of an advantage with him being a little bit more of a bulk inning, perhaps a bullpen guy, perhaps a little bit of a starter. Just call him a bulk guy. Could be one of those guys that you could be talking about making the big leagues at some point during this upcoming season. Incredibly high on Jose Rodriguez.
His dad was the general manager of the Guerreros in Oaxaca, Mexico professional team, so he actually got to grow up in a professional baseball locker room. He has the good fastball, but that changeup right there, that's his calling card. That changeup there, that is a really nice pitch. His nickname is T-Boo. He actually has there's that changeup again. He has a tattoo of a shark. T-Boo, a shark. T-Boo was his dad's name, so they took on that nickname, the same as their dad. That was his dad's nickname, and so both him and his brother are now known as Tebow with their nicknames. So Rancho, 37.3% strikeout rate. His K percentage with Great Lakes with 33.3%. Again, great length, 6'6", 7 foot extension, great changeup, good carry on the fastball. So really nothing not to like about Jose Rodriguez. We will continue to cover him a lot. We've covered him a whole bunch to this point. So there he is again. And another guy that we have covered, matter of fact, I think we covered him on our last show, but he's worth covering again, is Chris Campos, because this guy, I've been telling you since about the midway point, really even about the quarterway point of last year, this guy is gathering momentum, Chris Campos.
Yeah, he's gathering a lot of momentum, and he forced his way up to the AA level after only having, a dozen appearances in Great Lakes, forced his way up to Tulsa and stuck at the AA level, and I couldn't be more impressed with him. You talk about his numbers last year, a 3.43 ERA combined between Great Lakes and Tulsa, and it was 3.15 in Great Lakes and 3.62 in Tulsa. Really solid for him. He went out there and was incredibly efficient with a lot of this and has a lot of that command and control that you like to see from a pitcher like him. The strikeout percentage around 26% combined last year, walk percentage 6.5%. You can absolutely deal with that if you're Chris Campos, and he's going to go out there, he's going to perform, and he's going to do it perhaps a little bit sneakily under the radar type of performance, but he's going to go out there and he's going to give you some innings. He's going to go out there and put up some zeros, and I couldn't be more impressed with what he has been doing thus far during his journey in the Dodgers organization. Huge step for him during the 2024 season.
I would totally agree. Young man. Big time slider, that one right there. Big time sequencing. He plays his fastball off of the slider, and he just totally understands what makes him good. He understands the sequencing, and he is just very good at it. Him and Jared Quiroz have worked quite a bit together on the sequencing part of things. So if you notice that the strength of both Quiroz and Campos is sequencing, you would be correct, and that's because they work together. So, hey, I'll tell you another guy that I'm really excited about that I'm sure Dodgers fans have never heard about, and the one outing he got on the big field went completely sideways on him. I am not going to even try to hide that, but Carson Hobbs is a young man that came just splashing onto the scene at Great Lakes last year with his big fastball, big personality. This is a guy from Alabama that if you talk to him, you just want to go drink a beer with him. You want to be a friend with. You want to be his friend because he's just such a polite and just really super nice young man. You couldn't root for him anymore. Out of Samford, not Stanford, Samford. And I'll tell you what, as he keeps getting better and that fastball keeps getting up around 100 miles an hour, that slider is big time. That bullet right there is really good. I really, really like Carson Hobbs. I think this time next year, Dodgers fans could be thinking of him like they've thought of like a Ben Kasparius, like, who in the hell is this guy, right? I think he's that good.
Yeah, with Carson, as you mentioned, incredibly nice guy. He's one of these guys who it might take him just a second to make that adjustment, which I think you saw him during the spring training outing that he had, where it was a struggle. You date back to his first couple of outings in Great Lakes. They were a real struggle for him going out there, and gave up a couple of runs during each of those outings. But once things started to click, once he was able to get out of that outing, I believe it was against Fort Wayne, he would really started to excel, and you got to see the stuff and the confidence be able to just accelerate for him. And with him, he had a lot of success, or at least especially with the swing and miss stuff at Rancho last year with a 34% strikeout percentage. And you got to see his swing and miss stuff really start to accelerate over time. Ended up with about a 25.5% with him in Great Lakes, but you can see that really starting to grow more and more. Carson Hobbs, you can see once he starts to gain a lot of confidence, he can really go out there and excel. The stuff is, as you mentioned, is absolutely nasty. It is about maintaining that and going out there and showcasing just how good he is. And when he does that, man, he can really accelerate a ton. So I'm excited to see what steps he has continued to make going forward this upcoming season.
So the fastball's big. It will approach 100 probably this next coming year, but that's not his best pitch. His centerpiece is slider, no doubt about it. That slider is a center. Look at that pitch right there. He can steal it for strikes. He can run it in on lefties. He can hit it on the back door. I mean, right there. See how he backed that slider up to steal a strike? And the lefty is like, I thought that was coming in up underneath my hands, and it didn't. And then he's able to play that big fastball off of that slider. The fastball's almost 100 miles an hour at times. Now he's going to sit probably 95, 96. And then he has a curveball, that one, that he can bury in the dirt if he gets ahead of the count. And so Carson Hobbs, a 3-pitch mix, centerpiece slider, fastball that has good velo to it, and then that big curveball. right there. So super exciting young man, and Carson Hobbs that you might not have heard of, but you have now, and keep him in the back of your mind because, hey, he's not a front of the Rolodex guy at this moment, anything like that, but he does have Rolodex type ability and talent, and like you said, whenever he gets adjusted, I think he's going to start turning heads very, very fast. So let's go to our next guy, one of the most talented young men in the Dodgers system, hands down, no doubt about it, and that would be one Mr. Ronan Kopp. So Austin, evaluate Ronan Kopp. I really thought last year he would be threatening, like Dodgers fans going, is this guy going to make the major leagues this year? He didn't. He didn't have a great year because there were some injuries, and then the command wasn't always perfect. So kind of take us through where he should be, where he is, and where you think he'll end up.
Yeah, it has entirely to do with his ability to be able to throw strikes consistently and be able to limit some of the walks. That is the only thing that is holding back Ronan Kopp from being a professional hitter, because the stuff is there. His ability to be able to generate swing and miss still remain despite some of the struggles dating back to last year. He still had a 31% strikeout percentage. Yeah. In 2023, it was 36%. It's still incredible for him. But what's not there quite yet is last year he had an 18% walk percentage. That's going to lead to too many opportunities for opponents to be able to score runs. And so that's really the progression of where Ronan is at right now. His stuff is electric. It's absolutely dynamic with what he's able to do. And even despite the walks last year, still was able to put up a 4.17 ERA.
Yeah.
Like, he still can go out there and perform. It's just one element, one hurdle that you want to see him be able to overcome. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do with that, because even if he can drop that down to 13-14%, just a little bit lower than what it is, obviously you like that to be down closer to 10% or so, he can be really effective on the mound. Ronan Kopp, I'm still incredibly high, still incredibly excited to see what he's going to be able to do during this upcoming season, but it's going to be a big year for him to make those additional steps as he continues his journey at the minor league level.
Yeah, you're seeing that. You saw the slider. There's the big slider. You saw the smaller bullet-type slider. You've seen the fastball at the top of the zone. There's another slider for a kind of a steal me a strike. There is Taylor Young, TY, completing a double play there. And so Ronan Kopp, 6'7", very loud tools. He has hit 100 miles an hour in a bullpen before. He used to be a starter, got converted to the bullpen just a couple of years ago. And so that walk rate is big for him, because look at that leg kick. I mean, you want to be about 1.3 to the plate if you're a pitcher. That's going to be about 1.6, 1.7. And so that's going to make it very difficult for catchers to throw out runners. And so if you're allowing free baseball and you're walking guys, and then you can't control the running game, I mean, basically you're going to have a runner in scoring position every time you walk somebody. And so if you're going to have a big leg kick like that, really the only way to combat that is just not to let guys on base to begin with. So it's not a good combination to walk a lot of guys and then have a big leg kick where they can steal bases. I think that's probably there's that big high riding fastball up in the top of the zone. I think that's an adjustment that at some point Ronan Kopp's going to have to master, but he's totally capable of doing it. And when he does, and when all the pieces get put together, there are very few young men that have as much upside as Ronan Kopp. So super excited about him. Let's go to another young man who really, to be honest with you, till about July, might have been the best relief pitcher in minor league baseball at Great Lakes, and that would be Kelvin Ramirez. He was just really, really on fire there for a bit early last year.
Yeah, he absolutely was on fire for Great Lakes. Talking about Kelvin Ramirez, just absolutely dynamic with what he was able to produce. You mentioned some of his numbers leading up through to the beginning part of July. Put up a 3.31 ERA during that time frame, and just was incredibly reliable. And that's including an outing that went a little bit sideways on the 30th of June. Just went out there and was incredibly reliable during the first first half of the Great Lakes season, and even down the stretch was put into some situations where he was able to excel with. Kelvin Ramirez took a lot of different steps during the 2024 campaign, and you got to see, especially early in that season, just how dynamic he was. He was, for certain parts of the stretch, one of the late inning guys sometimes relied upon in closing type situations. Kelvin Ramirez, when he is on, he can be really fun to watch.
So that fastball you're seeing is about 98. Got a nice little slider and a tumbling changeup. So the two big ones are his fastball at 98 and then his changeup, and then he can also steal some strikes with that pitch right there with his slider. So Kelvin Ramirez, 3-pitch reliever. He loves the high leverage. He's shown that whenever he is on top of his game and confident, he can go long stretches, at least at the minor league level, of getting a lot of outs. And so let's get to our next guy that was maybe kind of like Ramirez. I mean, he started last year just absolutely on fire, ended up getting hurt and really stunted his momentum. But I'll tell you what, come about July 4th last year, nobody had more momentum than Lucas Wepf, young man out of Canada, Toronto or Ontario, I think it's Ontario actually, went to JUCO in Colorado and then ended up at UL Monroe, and then eventually signed as an undrafted free agent, has gotten a lot bigger. You can kind of see there's just like a lot of legs and arms there, a lot of knees and elbows, just kind of like a Nick Frosso type uncomfortable delivery with a little bit of crossfire, a fastball that is very, very good, and a young man that, if he can stay healthy, is, I know that the end of last year wasn't as momentum filled as the beginning, but he did build some momentum last year, Lucas Wepf.
Yeah, it kind of mirrored a little bit of what his 2023 season was. Yeah. Remember back to 2023, he started off in Rancho, and he pitched incredibly well to start that season. 2.43 ERA, 1.82 FIP, Ks per 9, almost 15 and a half. Just went out there and absolutely excelled. Wasn't as dominant in Great Lakes towards the end of the 2023 season with Great Lakes, but went out there and absolutely started with the bang. I remember him on, I think it was opening day, went out there against Fort Wayne and pitched 2 or 3 scoreless innings, and I think some of those were in extra innings as well, where there was a runner starting on second base, and that just started a lot of momentum with him last season. During his time in Great Lakes, put up a 1.84 ERA. One of the best relievers in the Midwest League. And you talk about Kelvin Ramirez and Lucas Wepf, they were anchoring the bullpen for Great Lakes to start last season. Strikeout percentage in Great Lakes was almost at 40%. And
let me stop you right there. Hold on one second. Let me back up. And I don't want to. We'll get back into that. Watch this pitch. See how that right turn? That's called a splinker. So the Dodgers started calling that pitch. Let me throw it one more time. They started calling this the splinker because it's a mix between the splitter and a sinker. So that pitch right there is called a splinker. Sorry, I wanted to dive in while we had that on the screen and show that to the fans. All right, continue on where you're at.
Yep, no, and he was able to generate a lot of swing and miss stuff last year. At Great Lakes was about 40% strikeout percentage, would drop to about 30-ish% during his time in Tulsa. If he can rebound exactly like he has in 2023, where he started the season incredibly hot, and he started 2024 incredibly hot, this is one of these guys that can jump up the ranks really quick, and you can be talking about Lucas Wepf in Oklahoma City, and then who knows if he continues with some of the momentums, learn some of the lessons, or is just able to stay healthy in 2025, you can be talking about him pushing on the door to be at the big league level. He is incredibly exciting as a prospect.
And he's unique. I mean, that's kind of what I like about Nick Frosso, and this is kind of who it reminds me of, is just the uniqueness. I mean, the delivery, the windup, the splinker, the offerings going south to home plate are unique. The windup's unique. The size is unique. The backstory is unique. So, a lot of times, what all these guys are awesome. What separates one guy from the next is sometimes you're unique. You're different. You're not like everybody else. And that kind of separates you. So
he gets. You can see it on the mound too. Even when the ball is just thrown back from the catcher, he'll go out there and throw his glove at the baseball because he's in the zone. He's fired up when he's right. Yeah, you can see just a little bit of that, just him reaching his glove out from there. He can get into the game. He's unique, is what you said, and he's incredibly talented as well.
Okay, let's go to our next guy. Actually, the first guy, this pitcher right here, 104, baby. He was the first guy in the system. Of course, Edgardo hit 104. But Ronaldo Yean was the first one to hit 104 last year. I mean, this guy is at – we talk about Edgardo because he was a little bit more advanced. He had a little bit more time in the minor leagues and that kind of deal. But I'm not sure that Edgardo Enriquez has better raw stuff than Ronaldo Yean. I mean, Ronaldo Yean is straight running lightning. So – dive into him.
Yeah, he's dynamic. He is. You mentioned the velo on his fastball. You don't see that really ever, or hardly ever, from a guy, and especially a guy at the single A level. Ronaldo Yean. Look, with him, it's another one of these guys where if he can find a little bit of command, if he can find a little bit of control with some of his stuff, or at least be effectively wild with his stuff, he's going to be extremely effective. Last year, you mentioned with his stuff, he was able to generate a strikeout percentage of 40%. Walk percentage was high; it was above 20%. There's no sugarcoating that. But if he can control that even just a little bit, the stuff is good enough. At least the fastball velo is good enough, and the pitch mix that he can have is good enough to get big league hitters out. It is about refining that control, learning the sequencing, and learning the elements of the game to turn him into a much more polished pitcher that is going to take him to that next level. But the actual raw stuff that you have is as good as just about anybody in the game of baseball.
You're not exaggerating there. Ronaldo Yean is incredibly talented. And, even with the walk rate, I mean, he went, of course, he kind of got shot sideline there in the middle. But he went like 8 or 9 outings in a row, even with the walk rate, without giving up any runs. I mean, it was like nobody was scoring on Ronaldo Yean. Now, you're talking about single-A hitters. You're not talking about major league hitters. And if you go watch a single-A game, the ball's supposed to go south. Sometimes it goes east and west. Sometimes it goes north. You don't quite know exactly where the ball's always going to go, and it's coming 187 miles an hour. So hitting in the high A level or single A level is not always easy. So keep that in mind. That's why I always like to pump the brakes on guys. That's why also it frustrates me, like whenever you do prospect list, and like Jackson Ferris jumps Justin Robleski. I mean, really? I mean, come on. I mean, I know Jackson Ferris is good. Did you not see Justin Robleski was mowing through major league hitters? So I'm not saying that Jackson Ferris won't be better in time, but he's not right now. So that kind of stuff, I always like to pump the brakes on that type of deal until you see him at a higher level. But he just absolutely bullied hitters at the single A level. So super excited about him. Let's move to the position players. Let's start with the catchers. Here's a young man that I'm sure that unless you are just an absolute prospect junkie, you have not heard of. And we've covered this young man. This is Carlos Rojas, and we have covered him quite a bit on Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network on our daily shows. But again, you're talking about single A Rancho, not a guy that gets a whole lot of publication yet. But here he is, Carlos Rojas, a wonderful young catching prospect in the Dodgers system. He had a 10-game hitting streak last year. He had so close to 500 in July. OPS over 1,000. So a very good player, Carlos Rojas.
Yeah, very good player. Not a player that I've had the chance to see a whole lot, and it's been kind of overshadowed by some of the catchers that have been in this system. Whether it's dating back to Tyrone Lorenzo when he was down there, or Jesus Galiz, I think spent a lot of time in Rancho, but he's got a chance to be able to showcase himself a little bit. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do going forward as he continues with his development. Last year in Rancho, it was about league average 101 WRC plus, but you talk about 290 average, 368 on base percentage, 357 slugging percentage. There's a lot of tools to be able to as he continues his development at the catching position. And I'm excited to see him at some point over the course of whether it's this season or in 2026 or whenever he gets up to Great Lakes.
Yeah. And a young man that, if you notice his swing, you saw it last swing, he's definitely line drive oriented. He's not a guy that's trying to lift the ball. See that there? I mean, he's just trying to hit that line drive. And because of that, he's a guy that hits it to all field. See that? So he stayed on that side of that and just threw that down the right field line. So literally, he can go foul line to foul line in his approach. There's John Shoemaker. And because of that, I think he has a chance to be a great hitter first. That we'll see what the Dodgers do in terms of trying to get him to hit the ball in the air more. But you can see there are a lot of hard ground balls, a lot of low line drives, just a really smooth, really sweet swing. And I think he has the ability to hit the ball very hard, but it is definitely a line drive approach for Carlos Rojas. So another young man, I'm not going to sugarcoat it whatsoever because I love the young man. I love his energy. I love just what he brings to a team. And I really thought he would have a better year than he had last year. I kind of felt for him because he kind of got to Double-A and started spinning his wheels a little bit. That's Janer Fernandez that you're seeing here, young man that played mostly second base while Dalton Rushing and Diego Cartaya were on the Tulsa roster. Then him and GLP, Griffin Lockwood Powell, took over the catching duties. And to be honest with you, when he went back home to catcher, I even commented on this, it like lit a spark in him, starting like at the beginning of July, and he started hitting the ball again. So Janer Fernandez, a young man, very talented, very fiery. I mean, if you throw the wrong pitch to home plate, he's going to throw it back to you faster than you threw it to him. He's got that kind of fiery personality. One of the toughest young men, hits the ball to all fields. Line drive type guy, Janer Fernandez.
Yeah, line drive type guy, not one of these guys that's going to go out there and be swinging for the fences a whole lot. But let's also remember for Janer, he last year was only his age 21 season.
Yes, right.
And if you talk about players that are 21, you're talking about a lot of guys who probably should be in Rancho, not in Tulsa. And even despite that, last year was still able to put up a 95 WRC plus. Still was able to strike out less than 14% of the time. Janer Fernandez, especially with his athleticism, both playing the catcher and the second base position, not something that you see a whole lot going around. He can still go out there and be able to produce. And you talk about one of the clubhouse guys, talk about one of the guys that can bring a lot of positivity and energy to the place. He's one of these guys that can go out there, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do this season. For if he starts back again in Tulsa, to see what he's able to do continuing with his development going forward, because he's going to be entering his age 22 season, still incredibly young, still a ton of potential for him going forward as he rose up through the ranks. Now there might be a little bit of an adjustment period, but I have full confidence in his ability to make those adjustments.
Yeah, he's the type of guy, life of the party. You go to a party, he's going to have the sunglasses on, he's going to have his mixed drink in his hand, he's going to have the two prettiest girls on his side, and he's just going to be living life right. Everybody's going to be jealous of him because he's going to be the center of that because he is such a cool dude. So, Janer Fernandez, let's finish our conversation about the catchers with a young man that, hey, I can tell you this, and he's not like the highest prospect in the Dodgers system or anything like that. But he is a guy that you have gotten to see quite a bit, and I know that you never miss a chance to brag on Nelson Quiroz. You love this guy.
Oh, this guy. I have nothing but great things to say about Nelson Quiroz. He can go out there. First off, behind the plate, he's incredibly reliable last season with what he was able to do, with the way that he's able to work with a lot of the pitchers. I don't think I've ever saw a bad game behind the plate for Q. And then to talk about his offensive ability, there was not a whole lot of power necessarily for him last year, but he's able to go out there and he's able to put the bat on the ball. You talk about Yainer having a good or low strikeout percentage. For Q, it was less than 8%. He just goes out there and puts the bat on the ball. And something I noticed, because I got to see both him and Yainer during spring training this past year, is Q is one of these guys that, especially during batting practice, which I know doesn't mean the world, but he's got a lot of power in him that you might not expect. He can go out there and he can drive the ball a little bit. Just one home run last season. If you can just elevate it's not his focus, but he has the ability to be able to do that. And you keep seeing with these highlights, opposite way hit in between short and third. He can go out there and do that. Nelson Quiroz is one of these guys that you probably have not had the chance to see a whole lot, but when you get to the chance to watch him every single day, you'll appreciate what he does.
Okay, let's go to our infielders. Let's start with Dominican Republic, like pretty much the biggest signing, not this last offseason, but the offseason before. That is Emil Morales, and I have talked to Manny Pimentel, who is one of the big. He does a lot. He's like in charge of a lot of the scouting. I can't even remember his exact title, and I don't want to get it wrong. But what he'll tell you about Emil Morales is he's very smooth, but he is the leader of the group. This is a young man that sees himself kind of like as the Jarek Jeter type role. He is the guy that's going to keep everything in line. So beyond just the great size that you see there and the great talent of Emil Morales, this is a young man, we see it all the time, turns the Dodgers culture. He is going to fit that culture in terms of he is going to be fiery. He's going to be a guy that's very competitive, and he is going to be a guy that forces the players around him to raise their level to his competitive level. So he is very much so a leader on the field, as well as being very good. This is Emil Morales.
Yeah, still incredibly young, still just 18 years old. Last year was his age 17 season, hasn't made it up to affiliate ball. So it's curious to see how fast the Dodgers want to push him, or they want to keep things polished either at the DSL or at the complex level. But last year during the Dominican Summer League, just 200 plate appearances, 14 home runs, and 12 stolen bases, which I know do not take a lot of stock into the complex or DSL numbers, just because the competition you're still dealing with very raw amateur type players. But still, with what he was able to produce, he still was well beyond the competition level of what he was going against last year. I'm excited to see what he is able to do going forward as he starts his affiliate ball journey, hopefully in 2025, if not 2026.
Yeah, kind of has that A-Rod look to him to me. That's kind of who I see whenever I watch Emil Morales. And another young man that the Dodgers took first pick of last year's draft. This is Kellen Lindsey, and for the second year in a row, the Dodgers took a young prospect last year, the year before, Kendall George, as an outfielder. This year as an infielder with 80 grade speed. Kellen Lindsey, nice young player, obviously, and he has just rocketed up the prospects list.
Yeah, he's rocketed it up because, well, one, we have not had an opportunity to be able to see him. First round pick coming out of high school from Florida. So it's going to be interesting to see how fast the Dodgers want to push him. But I think the Dodgers, they saw something clearly in him, not just with his ability to be able to hit, with his ability to be able to run as well. This is, I think, back-to-back draft classes where the first pick for the Dodgers is somebody that has 80 grade speed. I'm excited to see with him going forward of how he's going to be able to produce and the adjustments that he's going to have to make once he gets into this Dodgers system and starts playing, whether that's at the complex level or whether that's in Rancho. I'm really excited to see what the Dodgers see in him, because they obviously are clearly excited about the talent and potential of Kellen Lindsey.
Yeah. I see a lot of Jake Vogel in his game. The same type of swing, similar type of frames. They just kind of look like they have very similar type of skill sets. One an infielder, another an outfielder. I'll bet Jake played quite a bit of second base growing up. I don't know that as a fact, but I would have to think he did, just knowing how high school systems work. Both were drafted out of high school, so I see a lot of Jake Vogel in this guy. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how Kellen Lindsey adjusts to professional baseball this next season. So super excited to see his 80 grade speed. Another guy that was taken in the second pick of last year's draft. This is Chase Harlan. Chase Harlan was committed to the University of Florida. Look at that big swing. That is that's a Roy D. Mercer swing right there. How big of an old boy are you right there, huh, Chase Harlan? Look at that hack. I mean, that is straight lift. I mean, that is absolute straight lift. And I'll tell you who this reminds me of. This reminds me of a bigger version of Jake Geloff. That's a big old boy right there with a swing that basically starts lifting from the back and it's lifting to the front. So I do see some adjustment to that in terms of, I think there's going to be some swing and miss to that setup, but there's also going to be some home runs that go 900 yards see how that he's lifting his every part of that entire swing all the way through, which we'll see how that goes against guys that can hit holes and that kind of thing. But man, you talk about a young man that very few people at his age have his type of power potential.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him as he starts his journey within the Dodgers system. As you mentioned, the Dodgers' third-round pick during the 2024 draft. Have not seen him play at all, so we don't have any statistics on him within the Dodgers system. But you're going to start hearing more about him during the 2025 season.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so Logan Wagner, another young man. Again, I've reached out. I have not. He has not responded yet. We'll see as he gets healthy. Has not been able to stay healthy. But a super talented young man that got some time in 2024, did not play last year much at all. But as you can see right here with Logan Wagner, he is a switch hitter. There's his right-handed swing. There's his left-handed swing. So very talented young man, can hit from both sides of the plate. This was actually, you're going to see two go-ahead hits. Here's a go-ahead hit for Logan Wagner there, and then there's actually Joe Vitrano we're going to talk about here in just a second. Then you're also going to see a walk-off right there. How about that, Logan Wagner? That a boy. You can see the Quake Stadium there going nuts at Lone Mart Field. So Logan Wagner, there's not a whole lot to more so. This is just kind of, let's watch some video and let's kind of see what we see, because he was drafted out of high school and we haven't seen a whole lot of him as a professional yet. So hopefully he stays healthy and we get a good look at Logan Wagner in 2025.
Hopefully he stays healthy, and especially with the numbers that we do have for him with his time in Rancho. This is one of the guys that you talk about doing some prep for the 2025 Loon season, or at some point during the season, whether it's to start, whether it's halfway or something, especially if he's able to stay healthy. Talk about Logan Wagner with his numbers last year. 139 WRC plus during his 164 plate appearances. He can go out there and he can hit. Walk percentage during the time, 16 and a half. Strikeout percentage was about 25. Hit 6 home runs. Stole 4 bases. I mean, there's a lot of different tools, especially from switch hitting ability. This is one of these guys who, although we've only had a very limited sample size of him, 6th-round pick from the 2022 draft, if he's able to stay healthy and if he does close to what he did during his time in Rancho last year, man, I'm going to be doing the funky feather a lot with him at the plate.
Absolutely. Let's go to Kyle Nevin. This is my most underrated offensive prospect because of that right there. I think he has the ability to have great bat-to-ball skills. You saw last year the light tower power he has. Now, the swing and miss has been kind of a mystery with him because he has a beautiful swing. You're going to see it from the side here in just a minute. I mean, just a perfect swing. Everything he does to me from a structural perspective, it's absolutely perfect. Now, a lot of times when you're a little bit longer, obviously you have a bigger strike zone. So the bigger strike zone you have, the more you have to cover. And so part of that leads to some more swing and miss and some more strikeout. But I'll say this. I think as scouting reports get better, whenever you're at the complex or single A, even high A's, here's from the side, just perfect swing. I mean, that's just perfect. I know he rolled over that one. This timing is bad. But a lot of times, either the scouting report is incomplete because guys are new to pro ball and you don't have a whole lot of information on them, or the pitchers aren't actually good enough even to execute a scouting report. So it's kind of that high school. Hey, let's look for a fastball. Let's adjust to the breaking ball. 2 strikes. Let's look away. Don't hit anything above your hands, right? That kind of thing. I mean, so I think a lot of times that's the situation. I've said this many times. I think as he advances levels and scouting reports get more accurate and more detailed, and then that's going to allow him to be able to put better plans together in terms of swing decisions. And when that happens, I think that a lot of that strikeout stuff is going to go away with him because the physical tools, the swing structures are in place. And I think at that point, people are going to go, man, Kyle Nevin's really freaking. It's going to be the Jared Quiroz thing. It's going to be like, wow, this guy's really good. He's got the bloodlines that people have heard of, and they're really going to like what they see with Kyle Nevin. I really like this guy.
Yeah, he's an easily likable kid within this organization. The Dodgers, especially last year with Great Lakes, he was in towards the top part of their lineup consistently throughout just about the entire season last year, and went through some stretches where he really excelled. As you had mentioned, has light tower power, and that's not an exaggeration. You go back to his home run in Wisconsin that went 3/4 of the way up the light tower. That was a good 20 feet or so behind the outfield wall in left center. It was just absolutely ridiculous, the amount of power when he has his timing right. And I think when he's able to do that, he can go out there and really just excel. That, I believe, was the first home run in Dow Diamond last year for the Loons. That was actually a home run for Great Lakes last year. Kyle Nevin couldn't go out there, and he can hit. Last year, overall numbers don't look necessarily spectacular, just a 94 WRC plus, but I don't think that goes to show just how dominant he can be during particular stretches when his timing is on. Also, got a little bit of sneaky speed last year with 18 stolen bases. He can do a lot on the baseball field, and he can do some really incredible things at the plate. I'm excited to see the steps that he's able to take during the 2025 season.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. So let's get to our last outfielder that we're going to talk about, or infielder, I should say, that we're going to talk about on today's show, and that is Joe Vetrano, young man who is injured, but he has a world of potential out of BC. Actually played with Emmett Sheehan at Boston College, believe that or not. It's a guy that nobody hits the ball any harder than Joe Vetrano. A lot of low line drives, so I think the Dodgers will probably get him to hit the ball in the air a little bit more, kind of the Josue de Paula thing. A lot of, big time exit velos, but they're lower. And so for a big guy like that, if you continue to have those exit velos but get the ball, say, 25 degrees in the air, then instead of being a double, you're going to talk about a home run. So I think that's where you're at with Joe Vetrano. Not a whole lot to evaluate in terms of numbers as a professional because he has been injured, and that's kept him from getting momentum. But if he can stay healthy, this is a guy that can do a lot of damage with the wood.
Yeah, he absolutely can. And you mentioned that with him. A little bit more, especially last season, a lot more ground balls, just about 58%, and a lot of opposite field hits, about 45% oppo percentage for him. But you mentioned that power that he has. If he's able to tap into that power, I think that's when you're going to see a guy like Joe Vetrano go out there and just explode with the amount of potential that he has. Remember, 5th round pick dating back to the 2023 draft. The Dodgers clearly like something within him, and I think you're going to see potentially a breakout season in 2025 for him if he's able to tap into that power that already is in there.
Yeah, so he's a great hitter. He should have good bat-to-ball skills. He's a great hitter inside of a big body that has the potential to use those massive exit velos to hit massive home runs. So great hitter first that can also do that in a big body in Joe Vetrano. So now let's move to our outfielders, Austin, and we're going to start with a guy that hit over 400 in spring training. Now, very, very, very small sample size, and it was because he went, I believe, like 4 for his last 6 in spring training, and that would be one Josue de Paula. So jump into him. I'm going to let you have Josue de Paula.
Yeah, I'm excited for Depot, Josue de Paula, and this upcoming season. His prospect pedigree speaks for himself, and that's because of what he's able to do at the plate. He absolutely commands the strike zone, commands the batter's box, and is able to go out there and generate a ton of walks while also making some really consistent contact. During his time in Great Lakes last year, which happened during the second half of last season, walk percentage was almost 22%. He can go out there and draw walks, and that's not just because that's way above anybody else at the Midwest League. That's not just because people can't throw strikes in the Midwest League. They can to a certain degree, and he just goes out there and excels beyond that. Strikeout percentage just at 16.5%. You look at his combined numbers between Rancho and Great Lakes last year, 130 WRC plus during his time. And I think what can excel him even more is being able to tap into the power that absolutely is in there. You saw some of the home runs that he hit last season. Some of them were absolute moonshots. And I think one that wasn't even recorded is one in Lansing that just was unbelievable what he was able to do. You combine that with his ability at the plate to have a great consistent eye. You combine that with last year, he stole 27 bases.
Yeah.
And he's not one of those guys that you would think, oh, this is a guy that can go out there and steal a lot of bases. There's a world of potential if he's able to tap into these skill sets, tap into these tools, and really run and accelerate with them. There's a reason why not just Dodgers fans are excited about Josue de Paula.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So we've talked a lot about him, and we're going to talk a lot more about him moving forward in the future. And another young man that we're going to talk a whole lot about because he has gained a lot of steam, that would be Zaire Hope, the tank.
Yeah. Oh, man. You talk about pairing both of these guys. These are some of the guys, especially on the position players side, where there's so much hype. There's so much that are put onto these guys. And I'm so excited about Zaire Hope. Got a chance to see him during spring training, that first spring training game when he had those two great catches in the outfield. Got to see those in person right down the left field line. So I got to see them from not too far away. But his ability to be able to combine that with his offensive ability when he's able to go out there and stay healthy, that is able to separate him. Another one of these guys, good control of the batter's box when he's facing pitchers that are at the same degree. Last year, about a 15% walk percentage. Strikeout percentage was about 24%. Last year in Rancho, 144 WRC plus in about 250 plate appearances. 9 home runs. He can go out there. He can really hit. This is one of those guys that I'm excited, and I hope that, and I'm hoping, and I think that he will probably start out the season in Great Lakes, and I'm excited to see him during this upcoming season. And like I had mentioned, with potentially a Logan Wagner, Zaire Hope could be one of those guys that, for me, is causing a lot of Loons fans, and myself included, to be doing the funky feather a lot.
Yeah, another young man that could also hit for power, and he's also a great hitter, too. Can hit from foul pole to foul pole. I mean, he can punch one down the left field line. He can pull one down the right field line that you're seeing right there. So let's kind of complete that dynamic trio, if you will. That I really like the fact that last year the Dodgers started Josue de Paula and Zaire Hope, and then also Kenny George, all in the same outfield. Kenny George, 80 grade speed, the first pick of the Dodgers 2023 draft. And he really showed it off a lot last year. So Kenny George getting bigger and stronger, only 1 home run last year. But the 1 home run he hit was a bomb. So the power is there. It's just a matter of getting it up in the air.
It's a matter of getting it up in the air and finding what's going to be best to be able to maximize the tools and skill sets that he has. Last year he was in Rancho, just his age 19 season. So again, another one of these guys who's young for the level of competition that he has. He can go out there. It's about his ability to be able to get on base, because when he's able to get on base, he can be dynamic on the base paths. 36 stolen bases for Kendall George last year. I expect something similar during this upcoming season, if not some more, with how fast that he is on the field. 102 WRC plus for him last year. Again, not a whole lot of power that is right there, but the thing that's going to be able to allow him to maximize the skill sets that he has is last year he had a 384 on base percentage. If he's able to get on base a lot, he can do a lot of damage and turn those walks into essentially doubles. He can go out there and get on second base, get in scoring position in a hurry. I'm excited to see the development that he's going to be able to continue to have during this upcoming season. He was the first round pick for the Dodgers during the 2023 draft, so they clearly like him and clearly see something that he can grow into, especially with how young he is.
I would totally agree. He has a very electric game, and I would just say that, hey, he's very young, and he was very good at Atascocita High School, which is down there around the Kemah Boardwalk, Galveston Beach area, the Houston area, and that is elite baseball. But still, his body had a lot of growing to do. So what I would warn Dodgers fans is that as he's going to continue to redefine his game as his body gets bigger, this guy has a world of potential. So, I know that some fans, they have this guy or that guy or this guy ahead of, but I would just warn that this guy has a lot of growing to do. And whenever he grows into that body and then grows the game around that body, watch out, because This guy, Kendall George, he has an electric personality. He is just, I mean, he has the chance to be a really, really, really nice player. And so does this guy, another really fast player, outfielder, Edgardo Quintero, who didn't quite get things going at Rancho the way that you might have expected, but still a very, very, very talented outfielder, very fast, Edgardo Quintero.
Yeah, I have not had the chance to be able to watch him necessarily a whole lot, but I'm excited to see the advancements that he's going to continue to have, as I'm expecting probably him to go back to Rancho to continue to his work, continue with his development. You look at the numbers of the DSL and the complex, which again, I already stated that don't put a ton of stock into those, but he absolutely excelled during both of those stops. 2023 at the DSL at just 17 years old. 180 WRC plus. 2024 during his 233 plate appearances at the complex level, 142. There's a reason why people are excited. You talk about both of those stops, 22 and 29 stolen bases and 200, a little over 200 plate appearances. His speed is just ridiculous what he's able to do out there. And I'm excited to see if him find a little bit more consistency. Again, was able to make a lot of decent contact in Rancho, strikeout percentage less than 20%, walks about 16% of the time. If he's able to put these tools together, he can really go out there and explode. And there's a reason why a lot of people are incredibly high on him.
Hey, any final thoughts? This has been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun. First off, go ahead and read about those players as well as the other players. Don't just take our word for it. Continue to look into these guys with how talented and how each one of these guys is. It is disappointing that the Dodgers did not have a futures game to be able to play, to be able to showcase the talent level that each one of these guys have. But there's going to be plenty of opportunities to do so because we are fastly approaching the minor league season. I believe it's just 20 days away from the Loons opening day from the start of the AA, high A, and single A level. Oklahoma City, I believe, starts a little bit sooner than that. So it's coming up incredibly quick, which means these guys are going to have the opportunity to continue to fight for their dream, continue to fight for their journey going forward. And I believe in the talent within this system. And it's not just these guys that are the talented guys. You recognize there is a vast degree of different guys that are coming up from the complex level, from single A, high A, a little bit from some of the upper levels, although not quite as much from the upper levels that were part of the futures game roster for the Dodgers. There's going to be a lot of other guys that are going to break out during this upcoming season, and I'm excited to see which one of those guys are going to put a stamp on this incredibly talented system. And you surround them by some of the best coaches within the game of baseball, and these guys have the opportunity to be able to grow and accelerate. And I couldn't be more excited to start the minor league baseball season during 2025. For me, it's 20 days away, but I know it starts a little bit sooner for Oklahoma City.
All right, man. This has been a lot of fun. Austin, great job as always.
Awesome. Thanks, Ace.
For Austin Brubaker, I'm Casey Porter. I want to thank you for tuning in to another edition of Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. And until next time, it's a great day to be a Dodger.